The High Court Judge Alice Komuhangi Hauha convicted Christopher Okello Onyum of the 4 counts of murder.
I hereby convict Christopher Okello Onyum of the offense of murder, contrary to sections 171 and 172 of the Penal Code Act.
Komuhangi ruled that the prosecution had proven all 4 ingredients of murder, which are proof of a dead body, unlawful murder, participation, and murder with malice aforethought. The trial judge wasted no time on the 3 elements of proof: the dead bodies, participation in the murders, and that the murder was unlawful.
I find that the prosecution has also proved this ingredient beyond reasonable doubt, that Etef Gideon, Keisha Agenoroth, Otim, Seriang Ignatius, and Odeke Ryan, their death was caused by an unlawful act.
She ruled that Okello and his defense had not disputed causing the gruesome deaths of 4 toddlers at the Ggaba Early Childhood Development Center.
Also, the fact that the death was unlawful is also not disputed, given the account of the eyewitnesses.
Komuhangi spent much of the time justifying that the murders were committed with malice aforethought.
So malice aforethought is a mental element, and it is not easy to prove with direct evidence.
Whereas the defense never disputed the killing of the children, they blamed it on mental illness. The defense team had, in the course of the trial, argued that Okello had never been admitted to Butapika National Mental Referral Hospital. Komuhangi overruled the claim, which he stated that it would in any case not have an effect on the case before the court.
Supposing it was indeed true that the accused person has ever been in Butapika in 2020, as stated by his brother, of what relevance would it be in relation to this offense, which is alleged to have been committed on 2nd April 2026?
Nevertheless, the trial judge concurred with the prosecution that Okello's being admitted to Butapika was used to help him evade justice. Okello had confessed to killing his young brother, whom the prosecution named as Freeman, but he was never held accountable for the murder.
Cross-examination of DW2, that is the brother of the accused person, the prosecution had an explanation for the accused admission in Butapika at that time, which they put to the witness. And according to them, the accused had murdered his young half-brother called Freeman, and to escape criminal culpability, he was taken to Butapika Mental Hospital to disguise as if he killed the child due to mental illness, and from there he was whisked to the United States of America. I find this proposition credible because if indeed the accused person had been admitted because of a medical condition, there would have been no justification for concealing that from his own brother. Besides, they would not have informed him that the case under which the accused person was admitted was very sensitive.
On the sticky matter of Okello's unsound mind, Komuhangi ruled that the prosecution had presented overwhelming evidence showing that he was mentally stable.
If it was true that indeed the accused person suffers from any disease of the mind, either his father or mother would have been eager to come to this court to relay that information with some evidence.
Komuhangi relied on the testimony of the 2 psychiatrists who had examined the convict and gave him a clean bill of health. One of the examinations pertained to the mandatory requirement by the government for those seeking citizenship in Uganda. Then there was the testimony of the landlords and a car hire driver, all of whom testified in court that they had found the convict to be coherent in his speech and coordinated in his actions.
He had normal behavior, calm, cooperative, speech was coherent, his memory intact, and he exhibited good judgment.
Komuhangi ruled that Okello was stable and meticulously planned the gruesome attack on helpless toddlers whose necks he mercilessly slit, leaving them to bleed to death.
And goes ahead to cut their necks as if slaughtering a goat or a chicken in that accurate and precise manner, other than that of malice aforethought.
She observed that the web searches Okello conducted on ISIS beheadings and on nursery schools spoke to his deliberate action. The judge accused Okello of intentionally withholding information from the court. Okello had, in the course of the trial, pleaded that forces beyond his control pushed him to commit the crime, whose names he never mentioned.
Unfortunately, he neither stated the circumstances he claimed forced him to act that way, nor did he disclose the identities of his friends who may have compelled his actions on 2nd April 2026.
After reading the judgment, the prosecution took to the floor and appealed for the harshest punishment of death to be served on Okello over the unimaginable and extremely violent terror.
I said in section 172 of the Penal Code Act, a person who is convicted of the offense of murder is liable to suffer death.
The prosecution quoted several Bible verses to drive the appeal home, like the verse calling for an eye for an eye.
And his God in the 6th commandment says, "You shall not murder," in Exodus 20:13. In the same way, my Lord, it is commanded that the wages of sin is death.
Mwaganya argued that it was dangerous to hand Okello a lesser punishment.
My Lord, persons that have no regard to human life should not deserve to preserve theirs.
When Okello's turn came to speak to the court, maybe to ask for a lesser punishment, he declined.
You going to tell me why I shouldn't pass a death sentence?
No, my Lord, I'm not going to say something today.
You don't want to say anything? Do you want to say something?
No, my Lord,
You don't even want to apologize to Uganda?
If the fate of Okello had not been sealed, the failure to show remorse sealed it.
I hereby sentence him to suffer death.
While justice may have been served for the loss of the toddlers, the court was unable to establish the reason as to why Okello gruesomely murdered the toddlers, and it may never be known unless he chooses to speak out in prison before his hanging, if it will ever happen. No one has been hanged in Uganda in the last 27 years, despite courts handing down death sentences. The last person to be hanged was Haji Musa Seburumbi in 1999 at Luzira prison after he was convicted of multiple murders. Seburumbi was an intelligence operative under the Obote government. Jackson Onyango, NTV.